Welcome to Martini Time on Friday the 13th in Blackstone, Virginia, the center of the world. But then you too are at the center of the world. So, what a day this has been. Started off with the juxtaposition of Trump in England with the huge parade of satirical signs and very British humor is great. The satirical signs of Trump and the flying baby Trump and then at 12 o'clock the breaking news, the Friday the 13th dump, when Rosenbaum dropped the other shoe and 12 Russian government officials were indicted for hacking and on hacking the DNC and individuals named of. Well, I haven't read it, but according to the news people, this indictment is a work of art in its detail, in its factual evidence, naming the actual Russians who hacked into our country. You know, this is a modest way of saying invaded. It's like saying Hitler hacked Poland. He hacked into Russia. You know, he hacked into North Africa. You know, this is a modern equivalent to that. He didn't come in with armies. Now it's a digital army. We're all living in a digital world, like a video game. We're all living in a video game now. So it was an invasion. And so the title of today's talk is, Let's Get Out of the Fog. Now, I'm old enough to have been around to see what America was like before it got lost in a fog bank. And the fog bank really began with Nixon. We're still living in his fog. And, you know, we love San Francisco because it's always showing half and half. San Francisco's got here's fog and here's reality. Fog, reality. Reality, fog. It's not all fog. It's not all reality. It's half and half. But the fog rolls in, you see. Now the problem is that if we all lived in a fog bank, and we were born in the fog bank, and we never knew anything but the fog bank, then fog would be normal. It's like I have a wall. When I look to the left, I don't know if you can tell, my right eye goes up, so I've got a wall eye. And if my eyes get tired, it tends to creep around. So if I look to the right, I'm looking, you know, I see one reality. If I look to the left, I see two. And I can choose. I can choose which reality, which eye to be dominant. So the brain usually works that out and just automatically chooses one eye over the other. But what if it didn't? What if you couldn't choose? And what if everything was wall-eyed? What if everything had two realities? Well, how would you know what's the real reality? You would, you would, it's like, if you've got one eye, you can't put your fingers together. So if we were born with wall eyes, I'm just drawing a metaphor here, but if we were born in a fog bank, fog would be normal. So everybody that's been born since Nixon and follows the Nixon fog thinks fog is normal. But the base, you see, there is a ground base to Western civilization that has existed since the Enlightenment. Now, see, we're old. This is a rather young civilization, but it's not that young. I mean, Western civilization began with the breakout from the Middle Ages and the creation of the scientific method, the Protestant Reformation, capitalism, and then after the Industrial Revolution, the computer revolution, the digital. So we've been living in revolutions, but the ground has always been the same. And this ground was established by the originators of the Enlightenment, the 16th, 17th, 16th century England or Europe, with Newton and the Newtonian universe that broke with the Copernicus universe, or with the universe of Darwin. So you have Newton and Darwin as who first established this ground. It's called secular humanism, liberal secular humanism. The civilizations, the governments that we've built since World War II are liberal, in the sense they're not fascist or communist, you see. And liberal democracy means, basically, a democracy that is controlled by the people in, hopefully, fair elections. But anyway, but this base is verified by evidence. The scientific, materialistic world that we live in is verified by evidence. That's why we say, what's the evidence? If you don't have any evidence, then you can't prove it's real. So if an insane person believes in a reality that no one else agrees in, so they can define him as insane, but he might be Jesus, or a Buddha. But from the non-evidential base, you see, that would be you're insane. But if he gets a few followers, or a crowd, you see, who do believe in it, or he gets a movement to believe in him, his reality then has evidence. What's the evidence? The evidence is the number of people that believe in it. That doesn't mean it's real. I mean, that doesn't mean it's based in factual evidence. It's based in the number. It's based in ratings. It's based in the crowd size. It's based in the voters that voted for you, you see. The base confirms the reality, not the ground that is proven by hard evidence. So we've been in a fog bank because the fog of Nixon that's rolled through our history now for generations through the Republican Party has been basically a marriage of mythological thinking and rational scientific materialism. It's kind of like my martini. Now, what makes a martini? Well, you have gin, and you have a little bit of vermouth. The less vermouth you have, the drier the martini. So if you want a lot of vermouth is wine. So if you want a lot of vermouth, I'll tell you the recipe. I got it from my uncle. He was ordained martini priest, and he gave me the recipe. And it's 1 to 4. So if you have 1 shot of gin, you have a 1/4 shot of vermouth. Well, not a lot, you see. And then if you want it dry, he would say, you just wave the vermouth over it. It's pure gin. But anyway, it's a mix. And once you put it together, you can't take it apart. So the right has mixed the gin of scientific materialism, facts, the agreed upon reality that we all say, oh, that's real, that the newspapers report on, and the TV news, and Walter Cronkite, and Huntley and Brinkley, and Peter Jennings, all of our Ahers, you see, they all reported on the same reality, and we all agreed it was the same reality. But the fog bank rolled in, and we began drinking a reality mixed with myth. While the other reality, the left, stayed with the traditional scientific humanism, materialism. What are the facts? What's pragmatic? What'll work? Science is very pragmatic. It's not like magical thinking. It's like, well, let's do a test and see if it works. If it works, we'll do it again. Does it work? Well, the dry martini politics, the dry martini reality, which is a mixture of scientific materialism and mythology, creates a story. That's what a myth is. A myth is a story. And the story gives value to those who drink it. The story is subjective. See, the gin is objective. The scientific materialism is objective. The world is objective. And we're all viewing it as if we were in a, outside or something and looking through a glass. And that's all real. We're looking at reality from the outside, which is the scientific method. You look at reality as a scientist means that you're not in the experiment. That's what scientific objectivism means. You see, you're the one doing the experiment, and what you experiment with is a reality that everyone agrees upon. Now, when you mix scientific objectivism with mythology, then you add subjectivity. And your martini is either wet or dry, a little bit or a lot. So up until Trump, it was a dry martini. The Republican Party just mixed a little bit of mythology, just a little bit of story, just a little bit of me, just a little bit of value. You see, just a little bit. But then Trump came along and he's got a wet martini. He dumped a lot of mythology in there. He dumped a lot of story in there. So now the fog bank, you see, becomes like San Francisco. You can see the bridge, you can see a building. Oh, I know where I am. And then the fog rolls in, you have no idea where you are. You can see them both and both. But for those who are living in a wet martini, the mix of scientific realism, scientific materialism, and mythology, the whole world looks like a fog bank. The whole world looks like their reality. And the other people are fake, false, insane, enemies. The enemies of truth, the enemies of my truth. We must eliminate them. You can't have two truths. There can only be one truth, one reality, and I'm it. So anything you say is what the devil says, or what anything you say is going to be false. That's what a witch hunt is. If you catch a witch, say you're a witch, no matter what that witch says. I'm not a witch. I'm not a you're going to get burned because that's what witches say. So the fog bank rolled in, and what's happened since Trump has been elected is that, using the metaphor again, the martini went from dry to wet. And today, Friday the 13th, how ironic, the dump of evidence came that cleared the fog a little bit. Blew the fog away. So, there's the Golden Gate Bridge. I can orient. I'm in San Francisco. I know what street I'm on. There's something we can agree on. We hope. But the fog bank makes me know that that's all fake news too. You see? Even if the CIA and the FBI and the whole Justice Department and all the newspapers except Fox and all the newspapers and half the Congress and a majority of the American people said it was real, it's all fake. The fog bank is real. because that's all I know. And if I give up my fog bank, who will I be? You see, the story, the vermouth, the subjectivity that's been added to the objectivity makes me feel special, makes me feel strong, because I felt weak before. I felt a victim. I felt not special. But now, in the fog bank, I feel special. I feel powered. And Trump is my power, you see. Trump empowers me. I feel strong. I'm hitting back at those guys. That's all that matters. All that matters is that I, through my advocate, through my avatar, through my Savior, he hits the false news. He hits the enemy, my oppressors, and he makes me feel strong. And so naturally, I've got an investment in the fog bank. But you know about martinis. Drink too many of them and you get a little drunk. Thanks for dropping in.